Hey guys, Jason with Minnesota News Now here. I want to show you a video from inside a gun-free zone. This is a Harding High School in St. Paul. It's weird because, we have a law saying that this isn't allowed. Like, you can't have firearms in schools, and we have laws that say they can't do this. Look at this. Unreal. Tell me what you think in the comments below.
People sleep peaceably in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf.
After several reports of guns inside a St. Paul high school, some families say enough is enough.
And they're demanding enhanced security now for the safety of students at Harding High School. Our Paul Bloom is in our newsroom tonight. And Paul, charges filed today in what's really kind of a scary episode inside that school just a couple of days ago.
Tim and Karen, we are talking about allegations of a loaded and chambered handgun inside Harding Senior High School. Apparently, the young man here, talking about a 16-year-old with his hand on the trigger while inside the office of an administrator as the school goes on lockdown. Clearly, there are some frayed nerves in that school community right now.
Clearly, they're getting in there. And whatever's happening, the message isn't being sent that guns aren't acceptable at Harding. And we need to make sure that happens.
Not only is Barry Hand frustrated here, frankly, he has some serious concerns about what's going on inside Harding Senior High School right now and the safety of his daughter there. The district and St. Paul police confirm several gun-related incidents inside the building over the last few months, including a frightening episode just this week.
Now when it comes to guns, the funny thing is a fight, an argument, broken property can all be repaired. Once somebody pulls a trigger and a round leaves the chamber, you can't put that back in a gun.
According to court documents, the Ramsey County Attorney's Office has filed felony juvenile charges against a 16-year-old student who brought a loaded handgun into Harding on Wednesday. The petition states that the agitated teen had to be subdued in the assistant principal's office while the school went into lockdown. At one point, he allegedly had his finger on the trigger with the Glock in his sweatshirt pocket. Fortunately, staff was able to restrain him until police arrived. No one hurt. And that incident comes on the heels of another disturbing report of an armed altercation in a Harding High bathroom. A witness capturing the encounter on their cell phone and sharing the video on social media that quickly spread across the Harding community. While Fox 9 has not independently confirmed this is the exact video, and a former teacher in the building insists it is. He argues that it is now time the district think long and hard about implementing some type of metal detector security for campus.
Is that the kind of school we want our kids to be in?
A little bit more about that bathroom encounter with the cell phone video. That was first reported April 1st. Now, police tell us it appeared to be between a 16-year-old suspect trying to get access to a 15-year-old victim's cell phone. The gun at one point pointed at the youngster's head, as you saw. It's not clear whether or not charges were filed in that one, but in this week's gun incident, that young man now facing several counts, including possessing a dangerous weapon on school grounds. We're in the newsroom tonight. Paul Bloom, Fox 9.
Just disturbing, Paul. Thanks.
In Washington and in states across the nation, policymakers are debating responses to last month's school shooting in Parkland, Florida. But how much do we really know about the effects of gun laws? It turns out not much. The RAND Corporation, a nonprofit think tank, spent 2 years studying which facts that could affect gun policy are available and which facts are not. I'm joined now from Washington, D.C. by Andrew Morrell, senior behavioral scientist at the RAND Corporation, who helped lead the study. Thanks so much for joining us. So, how much do we know?
Well, we spent 2 years trying to figure out what the science says about this, trying to identify the most reliable scientific evidence for the effects of about 13 different common gun laws on a whole range of outcomes of concern to different stakeholders in gun policy debates. And I think the bottom line, the biggest finding we have is that there's not been a great deal of research done yet that looks at the effects of these laws.
You know, there's going to be several folks on the left that point to the Dickey Amendment. This was something that happened back in 1996. Essentially, in the part of an omnibus bill, there's a clause entered in there that says none of the funds made available for injury prevention and control at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention may be used to advocate or promote gun control. How big of an effect has that had, that the government can't particularly study this?
Well, it looks like it has had an effect. There was a study last year by David Stark and Nigam Shah that estimated that the government spends only about 2% as much on gun violence research as it does on research for other causes of mortality that kill about the same numbers of people, like liver disease or traffic accidents or sepsis. And as a result, of course, the number of publications that come out in this area are very low. They said they estimated it was only 4% as much research reports coming out compared to those other types of mortality.
All right, with the studies that do exist that you were able to take a look at, you set out to see what evidence there was about the effects of certain gun policies. For instance, taking a look at background checks, something being debated right now, you found there is inconclusive evidence about their effects on mass shootings and only moderate evidence that they decrease suicide and violent crime. And you found no evidence that they affect a variety of other things like officer-involved shootings or unintentional deaths. What else did you find, and what does this tell you about the lack of data around guns?
Yeah, and actually those the moderate evidence that we rated the effects of background checks on suicide and violent crime was actually among the few more significant or more credible ratings of evidence that we were able to give across all these outcomes. So the strongest evidence we found was for child access prevention laws. But even there, it's a relatively small number of studies, and so we don't think that there is enough evidence right now to make very strong claims.
You know, you point out that there's, as you say, that there's not that much research being done, that there's not so many direct lines you can draw. Your report also underscores how the different sides of the gun control debate come to differently kind of interpret these conclusions about the same effects on these gun laws. For instance, when you asked experts on the pro-gun control side of the debate about the effects of instituting universal background checks, they estimated that this could decrease firearm homicides by 8%. But when you asked experts who oppose gun control, they think background checks would have no effect at all. What explains this difference?
Well, actually, I think a lot of the differences between the two sides in this debate come down to different ideas about the true effects of gun policies. And that's why we focused on that in this study, and why we think more research that could answer these questions more definitively would be useful to resolving some of these long-standing debates.
All right, Andrew Morell of the RAND Corporation, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Hari.
People sleep peaceably in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf.